All right, welcome back to the channel. So, Bomac, Brian McIntyre, the trainer of Terence Crawford, has something else to say about Errol Spence Jr. More of the same, actually, but hopefully this time let's hope it's not a harbinger for bad things to come. But let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So we are going to talk about this Terence Crawford, Errol Spence Jr. stuff that keeps going on, man. I think this fight will probably be the one to break the anticipation record that was set by Floyd Mayweather Jr. Manny Pacquiao when it took forever and a day for that fight to be made. But both guys kept talking about one another and led ultimately to a very, very big fight, but it's one that took a very, very long time to pull off. And I think that we are headed in that direction with Errol Spence Jr. versus Terence Crawford. But Bomac said something again. This isn't the first time that he said something like this. It's a mixture of clout chasing. I think the other side of it might be some decent observation that he might have made, but a good bit of it is clout chasing. So let's talk about that. First, Errol Spence Jr. is the WBC and the IBF welterweight champion. You have Terence Crawford, who is the WBO champion. You have another champion in the division, Manny Pacquiao, who has the belts. And just this weekend, both in separate interviews, both the trainer of Terence Crawford and the promoter of Terence Crawford have managed to attach the name of Terence Crawford to both the other champions in the welterweight division, Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao. So this video will talk about what Bomac had to say. Now, Bomac says that Errol Spence Jr. is not dedicated to his craft. So this is the second time Bomac has said something. This seems a little less insulting than what he said the first time. The first time he said that a drunk ain't shit, was accusing Errol Spence Jr. of being a drunk and talking about his out of the ring habits, right? So, it shouldn't surprise anybody that Bomac would say this again, that Errol Spence Jr. is not dedicated to his craft. I think that's a little bit of nonsense because clearly Errol Spence Jr. is very dedicated to the sport of boxing. The cat has been tremendously successful. There's nothing that you can see in the ring that he's done that should communicate that this guy has not been substantially serious about his business. Now, I have to say substantially serious because just like everybody else, there are things that you do in your private life and away from work that you could probably set to the side. And obviously for Errol Spence Jr., that conversation revolves around drinking and partying and hanging out with people. You see videos of Errol Spence Jr., talking and hanging out, even in the quarantine, talking to his friends. His friend is talking about maybe having a party or something somewhere. But hey, man, that's what young people do, especially young people that have a whole lot of money. But that doesn't necessarily mean that cat's not taking care of his business, and training. But only time will tell. The last time that Crawford said something like that, or Bomac said something like that, it was right up before the accident that happened with Errol Spence Jr. So, and obviously, if people are not familiar, the accident that happened with Errol Spence Jr. is something that led to people to wonder whether or not Errol Spence is actually going to get back to where he was after the Sean Porter fight, because it was, and quite honestly, a horrific accident. Now, though I don't see why, I don't see that Errol Spence Jr. is not committed to the sport of boxing, but I will say this, that it's very reasonable for people to believe and to doubt that he is. Now, as much as a big of a Errol Spence Jr. fan I think it's reasonable for somebody to believe that if he was in a car accident, then if he had seen him, in Instagram posts or whatever, where he was around people and people were clearly drinking and doing all these things, doing stuff that's, not necessarily conducive with being, a world champion boxer. Hey man, it's not unreasonable for him to draw those conclusions. The only thing that I would say about that is if you're in a fight with somebody, or you're preparing for a fight with somebody, you better hope that you're not wrong. You know what I mean? And also there is the older you are, I think the more that stuff catches up to you. Errol Spence is coming up on 30 years old, but he's still on the younger side of his career. It doesn't have a lot of wear tear on him, hasn't taken a lot of punishment. So, we'll see whether or not, if those actions take place, time will tell, but I don't think that that's anything that's going to happen. Anything that you're going to see any massive decline in Errol Spence Jr. in the near future. Now, Terence Crawford, on the other hand, I will say does seem very, very dedicated to his craft. From what I can see, he always looks like he's dedicated. He always looks like he's in tremendous shape. Saw a picture of him when. Right, I can't remember what. I think it's the Deontay Wilder fight where he wasn't even in camp. Dude still looked ripped up. Dude looked like he was really physically together in between fights. So it looks like Terence Crawford is somebody that doesn't have the problem that Bomac is laying on the head of Errol Spence Jr. But one thing that I will say that, Terence Crawford is also being very, and you weren't going to get out of this video without this conversation. Although Terence Crawford seems like he's very dedicated to his craft outside of the ring and the preparation for the fight, it doesn't seem like he's really dedicated to his legacy as a champion, because the biggest barrier to Terence Crawford having these fights, besides Bob Arum, is apparently Terence Crawford's willingness to fight somebody that is, somebody that's not named Errol Spence Jr. or somebody that's not named Manny Pacquiao. Even though say for example, Errol Spence Jr. does have issues with his dedication to his craft, say that he is slipping and that, he's not training like he's supposed to be, and he's on that, on a downward spiral or whatever, is Terence Crawford actually going to be able to take advantage of that? Because Terence Crawford's just not doing anything to prove, to get his name big enough where people will actually really push for the Errol Spence Jr. fight. And that's people outside of the hardcore boxing community. And there's another aspect to it as well. Part of training for your craft, outside the ring, running, exercising, sparring, improving your technique and all that stuff is fine. And that's fine and good. And all that's fine, good, and necessary. But also, so is fighting top-notch competition and making sure that you have had yourself tested in big situations, so that if you get tested again in another big situation or a bigger situation, that you're going to be actually prepared to handle your business in that scenario. And that's where I wonder about Terence Crawford, because there isn't been anybody that has pushed Terence Crawford in a boxing ring in so long that you really don't know what he's going to do if and when he's in a fight that is really looks like it's even a 45, a 55-45 type of fight, because all of the fights that Terence Crawford are having are such blowouts. I mean, and they're blowouts on paper that, you have to, that I wonder whether or not, some of these holes that he's able to pick and see, and all these things that he's able to set up, you have to wonder, whether or not he'd be able to do all that against somebody that is a higher caliber fighter. And that's why it hits me so funny that he won't fight, that he, is so resistant to fighting a guy like Sean Porter, because Sean Porter is exactly the type of guy that will take advantage of whatever weakness that Terence Crawford has. And Terence Crawford fighting guys that will test him like that, that's very important to his craft. So, on one hand, you have Errol Spence Jr., who may not be taking care of, business to the best that is of his ability outside the ring, but inside the ring, he's taking on and he's fighting at very, very high level every fight, and he's competing at a very high level every fight. So his mind is sharp at that level of competition. But you have Terence Crawford, who's not. So it's like, which one is it, right? They kind of seem like they both might be having issues with that. But anyway, you let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.